It's all kind of the same stuff, and I've got to admit, I'm a real fan of the stuff. I think it's absolutely wonderful. Really very such a versatile product. And certainly, if you're not used to using it, I think you should, well, I encourage you to give it a go, because it is really, really useful. It's got lots of calcium in there, there's lots of protein in there, there's some fibre in there isn't much fat in there as well, so it's slightly low calorie if that's your thing. But really, it's something that you can add lots and lots of flavours to turn it into all sorts of different dishes, both sweet and savoury. And that's what I'm going to do today. Now, if you've not pressed the subscribe button, come in events and things like that, so do press that. That'd be wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so tofu. What's tofu? It's made from soya beans. Now, soya beans are a great source of protein. What they do is they dry them and then they grind them, and then those ground soya beans are washed. Now, the wash is collected and filtered, and that's essentially soya milk. Now, soya milk does have a few extra things in there. Sometimes it's fortified, sometimes it's sweetened with apple juice, but that's roughly what it is. And so from there, then you can make tofu. Now, you can make it a couple of ways. You can add some calcium to it, and it sets, and you get a very, very soft, tofu, which is this one here, which is silken. It's really soft. I'll come back to more to that. Or you can add something that's acidic in there, and you'll firm, difficult to say, form curds. Got there in the end. You'll get curds. Okay, now you can make it at home. It really is straightforward with a litre or so of standard soya milk. And then just bring it to the boil, don't boil it, and then add a couple of tablespoons of vinegar or lemon juice, and you'll see that it starts to split out. Switch the light out, and it will split out, and you'll see little curds forming, tiny little curds. And then what you do is let it cool slightly until it's completely separated. So you'll end up with essentially a vegan curds and whey, if you like, and then put it into a cloth and really squeeze out as much of the liquid as you can. Now, from that point, you can put it into a tofu box, and there's some clamps on it. It presses out the liquid, and it'll form into a block. And depending on, and this is the same commercially as well, depending on how much pressure is put on and how long it's left to stand and how much water comes out, will kind of dictate how soft or how firm the tofu is. Now, generally, in most supermarkets, you can buy these brands. Okay, so here I've got silken tofu, which is what I'm going to start cooking with today. Now, this is very, very soft. Okay, it'll just fall apart. So you can't use this for some of the dishes that I'm going to show you in a moment that you would use the firmer stuff for. Now, this is one of the sort of popular brands that you'll see in most supermarkets. It's a Cauldron brand, and this is a firm tofu. You can also buy, there's another company, there are lots of other companies as well, called the TOFU company. Similar stuff, it's just slightly different texture. So if you buy one and you weren't so keen and you think the texture was just slightly off, don't give up on it. Try a different brand. You can also buy it pre-cooked. These you can eat them as they are. Well, they are edible, but I'm not really a fan of. I prefer to cook them, but they are edible. But you can buy this sort of stuff as well. And this is a pre-fried tofu piece, and it's got some spices in there and some soy sauce as well. It's quite. I like this stuff, and it's really handy. Put it in salads. You can use it as sandwich fillings and all sorts of different things. You can just chuck this into stir fries without any bother at all. So it really is an easy thing to have in the fridge. Now, you can also buy, that's just in the sort of local supermarket. If you've got a more specialised shop that sells tofu, you can buy all sorts of stuff. You can buy it that's been deep fried in big chunks. If you ever go to a restaurant or a takeaway and you've got these big chunks of fried bean curd in a sauce or peanut sauce or whatever it is, you can buy those already ready to go to add to whatever sauce you're going to do in more specialised shops that sell lots of tofu. So do look out for those. It's definitely worth doing. So without without further ado, let's start the first recipe. Now I'm going to show you how to do some very, very easy ones and then just sort of work our way up a little bit. So the first one I want to show you is really straightforward, and it's using silken tofu. Now for this, it's just scrambled tofu. Okay, so it's kind of like an alternative to scrambled eggs, something you might have on toast, or you know, for breakfast with a few vegan sausages and that sort of stuff. But it really is straightforward. Now, you don't have to use the silken, you can use the firm stuff, which I'll open this in a second. But I actually quite like the silken for this. So I'm going to start with that just to get you going, to see how easy it really is. Now, I do apologise because I'm going to make a little bit of noise throughout this short cookery demonstration with my cooker. It'll beep in a second, and I'm going to use my blender as well, so it'll make a bit of noise. I do apologise. I'll apply it in ahead of time. Right then, so let's get the heat on. Now, this is the easiest thing to do. This is sort of the quickest thing. So if you want a very quick breakfast, bear in mind, so this is high in protein. It's got a good amount of calcium and some fibre in there, so it's a good thing to have as part of your diet. Now, I'm just going to put a small amount of oil into the pan. Really, you don't have to put it in if you don't want it, but I just like the flavour of that. So a little bit of truffle oil in there. So in we go with our tofu. Now, I've already opened this, and you'll see how soft it is. It just sort of crumbles. If you just touch it, it just crumbles. So just as a demonstration, I'm going to put a couple of dollops, if you like, in there. Now all I'm going to do is just essentially heat this through and add a bit of flavour to it. So all I'm going to do is break this up, and then because I'm trying to make it look a little bit like scrambled eggs. So if I grab my little things over here, so I've got some turmeric, just a small amount of turmeric, sprinkle it on, don't need much, and that will just give it that sort of nice yellow colour. Now, tofu, apart from the obviously the pre-flavoured ones, you can get a smoked one as well, which is really lovely. We've got a recipe for spanakopita. I think it's titled spinach pie on our website. Do have a look at that. It's really lovely. It's an alternative. Instead of using feta in the spinach pie, it uses the smoked tofu. Definitely worth having a go. Anyway, so we've got this. There's no flavour in it at all, but the turmeric will give it a small flavour. So I'm going to give it a little bit of salt in there, and also a pinch of mixed herbs. Now, on our website, you'll find a couple of recipes for scrambled tofu. There's a fortified version that's got some cream in there, some soy cream in there. That just kind of increases the calories. You can also put in some, you can also put in some fried veg in there if you want to put some bits of pepper in there. But I actually quite like it completely plain as it is, with just a little bit of salt in there, and of course the flavour of the turmeric, a little bit of oil, and also some salt and a few herbs. So it's really, you know, it's as simple as it ever could be. And what you end up, if you can see that now, is something that looks, in essence, like scrambled eggs. And that's it, it's done. So I've just got a little kind of a piece of toast here. You can serve it with breakfast, all sorts of different things. But I just wanted to put it with something so it doesn't look a little lonely in the pan. And there we have it. That's our first dish. How easy was that? Now, I particularly wanted to do this one because the next recipe I'm going to show you how to make is a smoothie, which also uses silken tofu. And the way the recipes have worked out, you don't need the full packet. So you might end up like, I bought a packet and I've used, you know, 200 grams for this one, but I've got some less. So how can I use it? So that's what I'm going to show you in a second. So let's just put this out, and then we can put this to one side. But really, it's not sort of a strong flavour. It's just a little bit of a sort of smell from the turmeric, and also from the oil. If you put olive oil, you obviously get a little olive oil flavour. There we have it. Real simple start to the breakfast. And while I've been chatting, that's kind of done. Really, could not be easier. So that's our first little dish. You can see that. So it's just a very simple scrambled tofu with a bit of toast. So number one done. Okay, so you've still got some of the silken tofu left. Now, one thing to note about the silken tofu is often it's not in the refrigerated section. The other brands are in the refrigerator. So if you're looking for them and you can't find them, if you look down one of the aisles, you'll find it down there, or just ask someone. But it's not refrigerated. This, so if you're looking for it, you can't find it. It's not with the refrigerated stuff. Okay, right. Let's have a look at our lovely smoothies. So I'll bring this across. So that disappearing. Now this is a really easy one to make, and it uses the rest of the silken tofu here. So you could buy smoothies from the supermarket, but they're so easy to make. Now this one is going to use to blend it. I'm going to use one of these fast processor things. Now, if you've only got, if you've got a stick blender, one of these, it will work, but you just need to process this a little bit longer. That's all. Now, the basic recipe is, let's take the lid off and put these things in. Some of the silken tofu, and that's going to add protein to it, because often fruit smoothies don't have much protein. There's kind of a tiny bit in most things, but not a lot. So by adding this, we are increasing the nutritional value of it. I'm just thinking it's going to fall in a minute. No, come on, we'll get it in. There we go. In we go. Lovely. There we go. Most of it's in. Now then, and then I've got some of these berries. Now these are the ones you can buy in the supermarket that are frozen. These have thawed a bit, but you get the bag of like £2 or so for a bag of mixed berries. Now this time of year, well, no, just past now. Blackberries are everywhere. So if you go out picking those, this is a great way to use them up. But any sorts of fruit will work well. I do like it with this dark fruit because it does give a nice vibrance. Now, the full recipe for all of these things that I'm doing are on our website, so do have a look on there, and you'll also find the recipe that I mentioned, which was the spanakopita, the spinach pie one there too. Definitely worth making. So in we go with our fruits. Try not to drop it anywhere. There we go. Now, what I'd recommend is when you blended it, is just to have a small sample of it, because sometimes fruits, depending on how ripe they are, can be a little bit tart. So you just may want to put some maple syrup in there. So into that, and this will serve about 4 portions. It depends on how much you want to have, but this should yield about 4 kind of glasses like that. So for my taste, I'd say that's about 4 portions. I wouldn't want to have too much more than that. So in we go with our banana. I'm going to save that for something else later on, and also some orange juice. Now, if you've got orange juice, you've got mango juice or apple juice or anything that's already open, it will work really well. So in we go with that. So if you want to make it sweeter, what I would do is I'd just blend it and then taste it, rather than add it and do it that way around. So on we go with our lid, making sure it's on properly. Now I do apologise, this is the bit where it will make a bit of noise. So all we do, give it a quick, and there we are, we're done. Really could not be easier. Let's just carefully open that lid. And then we have our wonderful smoothie. So this will last in the fridge about 3 days or so, but it's really packed full of vitamins in there, and a great way to start your day. You might have had the scrambled tofu to begin with, and then you can have this as a drink as well. Now, there's quite a lot of calories in here because of all the fruit that's been blended, but it really is going to give you a nice healthy kick, a nice little boost, but at a fraction of the price of the ones that you can buy in the supermarket. And of course, because it's got the tofu in there, it's also got that bit of protein. Now, Another recipe with a silken tofu is to make cashew cream, and that really is straightforward. So you'll need full recipes on our website, some cashew nuts. Now, if you've got a sort of thing like this where it blends quite quickly, there's no need to soak them ahead of time in a little soy milk. But if you've got a sort of hand blender, then you may want to, and that will just soften the cashews. And then blend them with some of the silken tofu and a little bit of soy cream if you want it slightly sort of creamier flavour. And if you want to make it slightly sweeter, add a little bit of the maple syrup and also some vanilla essence as well if you fancy. It's really straightforward as that. And that's a nice thing, just a dollop on the side next to a pie or something like that, fruit pie or crumble or something like that. Sort of a bit of an alternative to cream. Anyway, so that's our second recipe, which is the lovely smoothie. So I'll pop that to one side. So that the next recipe I'd like to show you is the chocolate cheesecake, which is such a lovely recipe. I'll just grab my ingredients. Sorry for disappearing. So what you'll need for this one, there we go. Again, you'll need some silken tofu. Now, for this recipe, if you're doing the whole thing, it is a full packet. It's just shy of a full packet. So I would just put the whole thing in because they're about 400 grams, and that's going to be plenty for this. You'll also need, this is a vegan version. This is the base is margarine and also vegan biscuits. Now you can get digestives, or you can get ginger nuts, and these are the ginger nuts. Now, just to save a bit of time, what I would have done, what I've done ahead of time, is to melt the margarine, crush the biscuits, put them into a pan and mix them up. And when you've done that, you'll end up with this lovely crumb mix, the sort of standard base that you'd have for a lot of cheesecakes. So, I just give myself a bit of space. So let's just move this out of the way. So let's put all our ingredients into our blender. So we've got, this is the cream cheese. Now there's a couple of brands out there that you might want to choose. There's a sort of Tesco's and Sainsbury's have their own brand. There's also you can get them with flavors in. So you don't want to have the flavored one. You want to make sure that it is plain. It'll taste a bit funny if you don't. So in we go with that. Philadelphia do a version as well, I think, which is a plant-based one. Really interesting how things are changing these days, and you can find lots of alternatives for all sorts of things which are vegan, which is great. So in we go with our silken tofu. Now, I don't know if I showed you how soft this thing is, but it really is. If you touch it and squeeze it, it will just fall apart, which is great for what we want to have for this. But if you were to put this into a stir fry, which I'll be kind of talking about in a bit, it's not going to. It'll just fall apart and it'll make a horrible mess. So I wouldn't bother with that. So in we go into our blender. Let me just move this out of the way, and I'm not falling over myself. Now this is a chocolate cheesecake, so we need to put in something that's sweet and chocolatey. There we go. So I've got some cocoa powder here. Now, if you're making this and you want to make sure that it's vegan, do check that it's just cocoa powder and it's not drinking chocolate, which can have milk derivatives in. So do have that extra check. So in we go with that. Now, I'm a big fan of vanilla. I love vanilla and all sorts of things, and this does work well. So it's got a tiny splash in there. Now, it's not that sweet at the moment because the dark chocolate, the cocoa powder is quite bitter. So I do want to sweeten this. I'll tell you what, I'll try one that I can open. So here we go with a little maple syrup in there. Obviously, it's to your taste. Whatever you fancy, you need to sort of taste it and see what it's like. So the last ingredient for our lovely topping is some vegan melted chocolate. So in this goes, like so. Try not to make too much noise. I know that it can get a bit clattery. There we go, lovely. So in we go with that, and that's it. That's our topping for the cheesecake. So on with the lid, make sure it's on properly. Turn it over, and it should just blend up nicely. Now what will happen? I need to give it a bit of a shake to make sure you don't end up with some white bits here. So do give it a shake and another blast until it's lovely and smooth and blended. If like this one, it's not quite, then take your time and then just give it a bit of a, oh, the smell of that. Just give it a bit of a stir because you don't want any white bits in your cheesecake. But that, so it just smells lovely. A bit of chocolate in there. It's really, really good. Okay, one last blend. If I can get the lid on. There we go. There we go. On we go. And this is the last bit of noise. And there we have it. So let's just get that out of the way. Now then, to assemble your little cheesecakes. So I've got my crumbs here. So that's the chocolate everywhere. So that's just the melted vegan margarine and the crushed ginger biscuits. Now you can do, as it says in the recipe, you do a whole one, or you can do individual ones. So sort of like putting them into a little pot like that. And I quite like that. It's quite nice having your own little pudding rather than a slice. But whichever you want to do, just go for it. So all you do is to take some of these crumbs and put them into your base of your whatever you're going to do, and then just take the time just to press that down like so. And when you've pressed it down and you've got a nice firm base, what I recommend is just to pop it into the fridge so it can just start to set, because this will be fine not to go in the fridge. But because if you've made it all in one go, it still could be a little bit warm from the melted margarine. So this has been stood for a while, so I can put my stuff straight on. My topping, should I say, straight on. But if you've not, then just pop them in the fridge. We've got some here I did earlier, and it's nice and set. It's a standard, it's a standard cheesecake base. So all we do then is take our lovely filling, and then we can just spoon this on to our little puddings. And what will happen is, obviously it's still a bit soft now, but what will happen is that will start to solidify. It won't go hard, but it'll just start to get a little bit firmer when you put it back into the fridge to let that set. Let's get one more. There we go. Why not? Let's do one more. So really, an easy dessert to make. You can serve this with some fresh strawberries if you like, or pieces of chocolate at the side. You can dress it as fancy as you want to. That is that. So you end up with something that looks like that. I'm trying to lean on them. So you've got these lovely little chocolate pots of sort of like, nice vegan chocolate cheesecake. Really lovely. So I'll put these back in the fridge for them to set, and I'm going to be having those for my tea tonight. Lucky me. Now the actual mix, instead of putting it on the base, is lovely just as it is. So you didn't want to go to the trouble of making the cheesecake, then you can just have that as a mix. We've got a couple of variations on our website. I think one's got avocado in there as well, and a little bit of lime, just to give that sort of extra bit of tanginess. But it really is a lovely little dessert. So let's just pop those in the fridge, and they can start to set, and I'll enjoy those for my tea tonight. Okay, so we're moving on now to our last and main dish So this is one of my favourites to make. It doesn't take that long to make it. All the time is in the preparation. So what you will need is a good sized pan. Now, it does help if you've got, let's flip that over, make it easier. If you've got a non-stick pan, if you're not into non-stick, you will need to just put an extra bit of oil in so that your tofu doesn't stick. So let's grab our tofu back. So this is going to be a pad thai. So if you didn't want to go to this sort of stage, then all you would do is you use these pre-cooked ones and then just throw them right in at the end, and you'll end up with a lovely pad thai. But I just want to show you how I like to do anyway the tofu. So you could use the smoked if you want, but I quite like the plain, so I'm going to go for the plain. So let's move these out of the way and open this up. Now, when you open this up, you'll find that it's in a little bit of water. Now, the thing to do is just to drain that away and then press out some of the water from the tofu. Open this. There we go. The reason you want to take some of the water is that people talk about tofu as being very absorbent and it will suck up lots of flavour, which it will. Of course it will. However, if it's still got lots of water in, if you imagine a sponge in a bath, it's full of water. You can't get any more water in. Like similarly with the tofu, it'd be difficult to get more flavour into it because it's still full. So what we want to do is to make it a little bit spongy. So let's just tip out some of that water, like so, and then take this out. So all you do, so this is firm tofu. All you do from this stage is to just get a little bit of paper towel like so, and then just pat it dry to try and take out some of the excess water. You can buy a tofu box to put them in, and it'll squeeze out even more water, and that will just make it slightly firmer. But that is going to be enough for me. I know some chefs like to put weights on it to press out, but I kind of quite like it as it is. So that's fine. That's fine for me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to marinate it. Now, you can marinate it, but I prefer to do it this way, and I'll tell you why in a second. But what I want to do is to get this into the pan so it can be doing its own thing. It does take a few minutes to cook. So you can do this in a wok, but if it's not got enough oil and the tofu sticks, it'll end up being a little bit messy. So let's just switch that on and put a small amount of oil into the pan. So that's just ordinary vegetable oil. You can put olive oil if you fancy. So all I'm going to do is to slice it into pieces like so, and then into little triangles. I won't be wasting any of these, so I'm using that for something else. And then into little triangles like so. So you end up with something like that. And that's just going to go into that small amount of oil. And what will happen is it will cook, but it will also dry out a bit. And it'll get a nice crispy edge. Now, depending on how long you cook it for, or how your temperature is, that will kind of dictate how crispy it is. Now, it's entirely up to you. Excuse me. It's entirely up to you how firm or otherwise you want it. I quite like it crispy. I quite like to have a bit of texture on there. So I tend to let it cook for a while. Now, bear in mind that if you make it too dry or too crispy, that's not such a bad thing, because when you put it with the stir fry, that's obviously got a little bit of liquid in there, it will then it'll absorb some of that liquid, and it'll make it slightly softer. So it's not the end of the world if you let it cook a bit much and it's a bit sort of a bit too crunchy, because it will get softer as it does its thing. All you do is just let that do its thing and be patient. Be patient. Be patient. So while that's cooking, let's bring our ingredients up. So I can move these out of the way. I'll bring the ingredients to the pad thai forward. So there's two kind of bits to this. The first thing are our noodles. Now, it does tend to be flat noodles and rice noodles, but you can use any noodles you fancy. Any noodles you fancy. So all I'm going to do, I'll tell you what, I could do with a bit more space. I'm going to put my noodles into a bowl, like so. So I'll come back to that in a second. There we go. So what I want to do is to rehydrate these noodles. You know, this is going to be enough to serve about 4 people. So I've got my kettle, it's already boiled, and I'm just going to pour on some hot water, and it'll just allow this to rehydrate. And it'll take about 10 minutes, which is fine because that will give me time to cook the tofu and all the other ingredients as well. So it just allows it to rehydrate. Now, you can buy them already hydrated and ready to go. Whichever you want. There's no preference one over another. It's entirely up to you. So I'll just give this a prod and a poke every now and again to make sure that it's thoroughly rehydrated. And then all I'm going to do is dump them straight into my pan with all the other stuff, and we're fine with that. So to one side for the second. Okay, right. Let's have a look at our tofu now. At the minute, it has no flavour. So I didn't use the smoked one, I didn't use the pre-flavoured one. It's just completely plain tofu. And remember that it's what you add to it that's going to make it tasty. So let's just have a look to see whether it's starting to get crispy. It's very, very soft, but it'll need a little bit longer. So what I like to do is to allow this to do its own thing, okay? Don't rush it. If you rush it and then you add it to your stir fry, I'm doing a pad thai, but whichever one you want to do, and then you start stirring it around, it'll all fall apart and it'll look a real mess. So allow this to cook and get crispy. What I like to do is once I'm happy that it's done, I'm going to add some flavour directly to the tofu. Even though my pad thai is going to have lots of flavour, I want to make sure that the tofu has lots of flavour on it. But whichever dish you want to make, I would still, if it's a savoury one with tofu, I really would recommend doing it this way. If you pre-marinate the tofu in pieces first, which you can, a lot of people do that, and then fry it like this, then sometimes bits of the marinade will burn before you get the crispy outside. So it's kind of pay your money and make your choice. This is kind of the way I like to do it. Okay, right, let's have a look at our ingredients for our lovely pad thai. So what we've got here are some ginger. This I've just kind of cheated on. I've got a puree here, so it's ready done, nice and easy. This is going to be a real punch of flavour. It's going to be quite spicy. Ginger is really quite a spicy ingredient, but I want this to have lots of flavour, so I've got plenty of that in there. I've also got a good dollop of pureed garlic as well, so I really want to give this a good old flavour. Now, after that, and the noodles and the tofu, it really is up to you which way you want to go with it. So I've got some bean sprouts, I've got some spring onions, I've got some peppers, you see there, some peppers, I've got some broccoli, I've got some peas, I've got a little bit of stock, some carrots, and some lime. Lime is really, really quite important, and I'm going to use the zest with that, as well as the actual juice. So let's just have a quick turn over there. There we go. Now that you can see this, let me just whip quite a few over. So I'll now start to cook. So what I've got in here, I know it's difficult for you to see, are some nice crispy pieces of tofu. Now the second side, the side I'm just turning onto, won't take half as long as the first. So if you're thinking, oh, it's taking a bit of time to do this, the second half really doesn't take long at all. There we go. Right. So if I can just bring this so you can see it. Looks, so you can see it a bit closer. So there's a nice bit of colour on there, and it's also got some texture on there, slightly crispy. How about the noise? But remember, even though it might look reasonably tasty because it's got that golden colour, there's still no flavour in it at all. So we need to add some flavour to this. So at this point, or in a moment or two, add something that's really bold to that. So you can put some soy sauce if you've got Henderson's relish. I think I mentioned that Henderson's relish in the past. Do put a good splasher there if you want to put some chili paste on there. Anything you fancy really, but really kind of make it quite strong and flavourful, because some of that flavour will come off when it goes into the stir fry. But you want to make sure that the tofu is not bland. It's not boring. So let's add some of the flavours to that now. So over here, and this is going to be part of my sort of sauce ingredients. I've got some. I can switch it off now. I've got some. A little bit of chili sauce, so a little splash of that, and also some soy sauce on there, like so. And I'll just give that a bit of a mix. So that's salty and sweet, with also the chili in there. Absolutely wonderful, perfect. So let's just transfer that over to a plate. I'm going to use this pan for my stir fry. So whatever, as I was saying, whatever dish you're going to make, if you do it like this first and then add it to it, so like a curry or whatever you fancy, you've got a nice bit of texture. If you do it at the start, it'll stir it and all fall apart. So let's put that to one side. Have a quick check of our noodles that I remember. So these are now starting to look lovely and soft. You see how those have changed. So that's probably going to be enough. But the actual cooking time for this is now really quickly. So I'm going to bring the veggies back and move this away for a moment. So we will come back to that. Let's have a look at this. Now, if you're interested in the work that Vegetarian for Life does, do have a look on our website. We do all sorts of things going on. We've got awards coming up, so do look at those. A new category, in fact, for hospitals. So if you're watching this and you're work in a hospital, or you've had as a caterer, or you've got a good experience, do have a look on there and nominate the hospital. Lots of other categories as well. So do have a look at that and nominate category that you think deserves it. We also do lots of cookery demonstrations. We've got chefs in Scotland, and I'm in Manchester area, and also one in Birmingham and in London. So if you're interested in having a cookery demonstration, do get in touch, and we'll try and arrange for that, and we can actually come to your place of work and maybe do some training as well if you're a chef. Yesterday I was in Poynton with a group called Always Active. So they said they'll be watching today, so I hope you're watching. Hello. You know, we had a great time. Made some nice paella and a lovely soup, and followed by a flapjack. It's a really nice interactive thing to do. With this, I'm going to get to enjoy all this food later, but it's much nicer to be invited into lots of different settings, and we can do a nice cookery session and demonstration or training person to person, now that we've kind of got that pandemic business out of the way. So let's get back to this. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is to pop in my spring onions. Now, what I've done is I've chopped them up, so I've reserved the top bit, and I'm going to use this as a garnish. So that just goes in with a tad more oil just to do its thing, and that really won't take that long to cook. I've also got my my ginger, big dollop of ginger in there, and also garlic. I want this to have the smell of the garlic. As soon as it went in, it's like, yeah, that's garlic, all right. So this is going to have a lovely flavour. Now, if it starts to get a bit dry, splash a small amount of stock in there, and that's obviously vegetable stock. I do apologise about the noise. It's very, very noisy today. And into that, I've got my broccoli. Big fan of broccoli. It will quieten down in a minute, I know. And also some stock in there. And I've got some carrots, which I've just sliced as thinly as I can if you're not so able with a slicing thin, just get a peeler and do some ribbons. So in we go with that. Now, pad thai is essentially a stir fry. Pad is the stir fry, and Thai Thailand. So it's a, you know, that's what it says. It's a stir fry from Thailand. So now, some of them are more noodly than others, and to make this dish a little bit more balanced in terms of nutrition, what I've done is I've got more veg in here just to kind of balance it out and make it a little healthier. Now, this recipe you won't find on our website, but this is a bit of a teaser. It will go on there soon. We're developing, the team of chefs are developing new recipes for a calendar, and all those recipes that we develop are going to be on our website. So if you're watching this and you're one of our members, you will automatically be sent the calendar. So if you're in a care home or care establishment and you're not already on our list, do get in touch. And then we can sign you up, and then all the new materials that we produce will just send out automatically. It really was worth having a go and taking the trouble to do that. So in we go with a little bit more stock, like so. I'm also going to put at this stage some lime, and I've given this a wash, and it's just a zest on there, and it really will just lift the flavour up. So let's just put some of that in. I do apologise, it is a bit noisy, but the smell, I know it's a cliche to say smelly vision, but, or smelly YouTube or Facebook or whatever, I don't know. It really does make a difference to this dish and lots of other dishes. If you think about making cakes, or sauces, you know, the zest from lemons and limes or grapefruits or oranges really will add whole another level of flavour to that. The last of our stock goes in there, and we're nearly done. This is sort of so easy. So in we go with our peppers. So a good dose of vitamin C in there. Now I've also got here some bean sprouts. Now I don't want to put these in just yet, because if you cook them too much, what will happen is the liquid will come out and they'll just end up sort of like, I guess, empty straws, if you know what I mean. So I want this to have a little bit of crunchiness to them. So I'm going to set that, excuse me, set that to one side. Now, the next ingredient I'm going to put in are some peas. Really such an underrated veg. Loads of protein in there. Also some iron and vitamin C in there. So it's really, you know, and most people have them in the freezer. Handful into all sorts of different dishes, and it won't go wrong. So in we go with that. Adds a bit of colour too. So if I pop that there, I can move this out of the way. And just give this a bit of a stir. So hopefully you can see this and see how colourful. It's a bit steamy. You see how colourful this is. Now, when you're happy that it's done, you can add the rest of the ingredients. So let's have a look at those. So what I've got here, and it may seem that there's quite a number, a long list of ingredients, but most of it I'm sure you'll have in, or you'll only need to buy one or two. So to give this an extra bit of flavour, just check, this is sesame oil. So I'm not going to cook in this, but it's just going to add an extra level of flavour. I've got the rest of the soy sauce, in that goes too. I've got some tamarind paste, you can get it as a paste or a sauce. In we go with that. So that's going to add a nice sort of zingy flavour to it. A little bit of sugar, pinch of sugar. If you've not got any sugar, but you've got some maple syrup, pop that in instead. It's just kind of getting that sort of balance of flavours, and also some peanut butter. So you can use smooth or crunchy, whichever you fancy. And as this cooks, it will all start to spread around. So I've also got here some chopped peanuts, which I'm going to use as a garnish. I've also got some chopped coriander, which I use as a garnish, and also some of the chopped spring onion, if you remember, that's saved to one side. And one last ingredient I do want to put in is this. Now this is 5 spice. Now the recipe will say 5 spice or star anise. The smell of five spice is very similar to that star anise. It's one of the key ingredients. So if you've got one or the other, don't go to the shops and buy something different. Just put a little bit in there, just a small amount, just give that lovely, lovely flavour. So let's just give this a bit of a stir. So it's much easier with two spoons. There we go. To make sure that the peanut butter, as it heats, it'll just melt away. And you really don't need that much peanut butter or chopped peanuts because it's quite a strong flavour. So there we have our lovely pad thai sort of base to it. So that I've got to put in some of these lovely noodles. So I'm going to put a big handful of noodles in there. That will do. And then try and make sure that it all gets coated, so the sauce gets coated around the noodles. And as the noodles, if they just need a little bit more rehydration, then they will get cooked with the stock from our sauce. Well, this is a slightly healthier version than some because it's got a few more veggies in there, whereas many of the dishes are lots of noodles and just a little bit of veg. This one's got a few more veggies in there. So we're nearly finished with this. So in we go with our lovely bean sprouts. We'll switch the heat off now and just give that a bit of a stir. Make sure it's all mixed in, and just that residual heat will be enough just to warm them through. So we've got a lovely, tasty dish there. So we'll come back to our tofu. So this is a tofu. Remember we did it a moment ago. So this is all lots and lots of flavour in here. So I'm going to put this on the top, like so. Oh, look at that, eh? We're nearly finished with this. So from start to finish, it should take about 20 minutes to do this. That's about, and you've got enough to serve at least 4 good-sized portions, maybe even a little bit more. And then just to finish off, I've got some coriander, fresh coriander, and just put some pieces on there like so, and some of the spring onion on the top, and of course some of these chopped peanuts as well. And the peanuts I've got are the salted ones, but of course you could use ones that aren't salted, but I kind of prefer the ones with the salt. So there we have our lovely pad thai. Just to finish it off and give it that extra bit, I've got some, I'll tell you what, I can use the one that I've taken there and just put some little wedges in like so, and then each portion will get a wedge of lime, and then you can just squeeze it on like so. So you end up with, I'll lift this up so you can see it, a lovely dish. The smell of the lime is wonderful. So we've got the ginger in there that's coming through, the coriander that's coming through, really vibrant and colourful and healthy. A really nice tea to have. You know, fancy if you fancy it, if you like it, put it in some nice bowls. But I think that is a really healthy dish to make. So we had tofu, we had everything, all things tofu. I hope I've given you a little bit of encouragement to try it. I do speak to people about tofu, and I had it once, I wasn't so keen on it. Do give it a go. So we have the recipe, which was the pad thai. Also, we had the scrambled tofu to begin with. So that's a lovely start to the day. Also got our nice smoothie, and then if I can just disappear again into the fridge for our nice little chocolate puddings, like so. Now, I know it might not seem fair, but I do want to share this seriously, if I may. And I didn't think I was a pudding person. I really are. I'm a savoury man. But I do enjoy these sweet puddings. They really are tasty. So I'm going to have a little sample of this. I'm going to make myself a nice cup of tea and tidy up the little bit of washing up there I've created from today. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do subscribe if you've not already subscribed, and I would point you in the direction of our website for more services that Vegetarian for Life offer. We've got all sorts of things on there. We've got speakers that will come and give you talks and cookery demonstrations. We've got information on nutrition. We're always looking to improve our services. We've got the awards coming up. We've got lots and lots of recipes and lots of other things as well. So it's definitely worth having a quick look on that. So I'm going to say goodbye for now, but I'm just going to a little taste of this. Get a bit of the base there. Okay. Honestly, I will eat it, but it's just so lovely. Give it a try. Give it dead easy. That is lovely. I say so myself. It's not a recipe I've made. It's one that's on our website, been there for a while, but it's absolutely delicious. And it was the ginger biscuits that I used at the bottom of there. I think there's an alternative, ginger biscuits or digestive biscuits, but it really is absolutely delicious. So if you're not convinced about tofu, give this one a try first. It's absolutely delicious. It really is. And then maybe make this one as well, because you'll have a bit spare. And you kind of won't notice it's there, but it'll add some nutritional value to it. Well, that's enough from me today. Thank you for watching. So do look out, we'll have another cookery demonstration in another month, so do look out for information on our website and Facebook page. Until then, take care, see you soon, bye-bye.